My name is Dwight Chen. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and also licensed Eastern medicine practitioner. And I have a PhD in chemistry. Today we're going to talk about hidden message in water, and I'll explain it scientifically. This hidden message in water book, I wonder if you have read it. It's a book written by a Japanese, and this book contains photographs of ice crystals from different experiments with the water exposed to music or words and pictures. And various exposure affect the crystal. The positive energy results in harmonious picture, and negative energy would generate in harmonious pictures of crystals. Here are some examples. Here is the bottle, water bottle, wrapped with paper, typed with love and gratitude, and show very pretty pictures. And here is the bottle with the words of thank you in different language. And this one is English, Chinese, German, French, different language, and all show very similar pretty pictures. And here on the left is the negative words. Three different kind of negative words show that very ugly pictures. And the one on top here is angel, and the one down there is Satan. So you can see that how the words affect the picture. So he came up with the hypothesis: human consciousness associated with thoughts and words could affect the crystal structure of the water. So question is why? To explain that, we're going to go back to about 200 years ago, the double slit experiments performed by English scientist Thomas Young. He used the double slit and proved that the light, when goes through the double slit, it has interference pattern, which shows that light is a wave. And then more than a century later, in 1927, Davidson and Germer performed double slit experiments with electrons. Electrons is tiny particles, microparticles. And so the difference between the first experiment by light has exposed the light, and down here is the single particles. And then they found that the microparticles has the characteristics of wave also. And later on, other scientists also performed the double slit experiment using atom, positron, neutron, and photon, and they will show that the results showing that the particles show that the characteristic of wave. So both wave and particle at the same time. And even big molecules was performed using going through the double slit, and these big molecules contain 810 atoms, and molecular weight more than 10,000. It also shows that the particles has the characteristic of weight. So in this experiment, for about 100 years, and all these scientists show that microparticles has both particles and wave characteristics. Let's talk about this dual characteristic of the microparticles more. When only one slit is used, the microparticles go through the slit. It will show that similar to regular particles, like sands or beads or stones. And after passing through the double slits, the microparticles show the interference pattern, which is characteristic of wave. And when numerous particles shine through at the same time, then the wave will show up immediately. And then when microparticles shoot one by one, then the pattern will still show up, but only gradually. And when these microparticles are observed, then that waveform disappears. So this is very interesting, and you can see that from this video here.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double-slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band do. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now, there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they can interfere with each other. But after an interference pattern is seen to emerge, the conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world. What is matter? Marbles or waves?
so that's a very interesting video.
You, should I stop it or what?
Continue.
Stop it?
No, continue.
No.
Okay, so to explain that, we need to go on to quantum mechanics. Even though that in the video that it's a cartoon, and so it shows that it's very entertaining, but actually, even though that in the cartoon that it only say that it's the results is very odd, but actually all those has been explained by quantum mechanics. So first one, like the de Broglie wavelength. In this equation, you can see that m is the moving particle's weight, and the v is the velocity. So if there's a moving particle, then there is a wavelength associated with it. So that could explain why there's a wave in there. And then another one, quantum superposition. I don't know why the uncertainty of microparticles in several different states at the same time before it's been measured. And so once it's measured, it becomes that then you can see the position. Otherwise, it's superposition. And that the uncertainty principle, the superposition that the random order can be predicted by uncertainty principle. Theta x is the position, theta p is the energy, that p is the momentum, and that h bar is the Planck constant, reduced Planck constant. So you can see that with the electron, we know the weight of the electron, and we know the velocity. Then that the position is unpredictable. Okay, so that explains the uncertainty principle. And then the wave function collapse, the transition of the quantum system from superposition into a single definite state when it's measured. And this is that the wave function collapse. So there are explanations to all these phenomena by quantum mechanics. However, the physicists, they usually will explain the phenomenon and with experiments, but they do not go further. So with that wave function collapse, they can explain that there's a wave function collapse, but they cannot explain why there's a wave function collapse. And for example, also, if there's a quantum superposition, and they can explain it, but they don't know why, and they don't want to get into the field because it's not their responsibility. Okay, so what we are going to do today is that we're going to explore further about this wave function collapse. Why there's a wave function collapse? Okay, this is a myth that the quantum mechanics cannot explain. What causes the wave function collapse? This mystery is a big puzzle in the world in the past 100 years. Nobody knows. And we're going to try to explain why. So what?
One theory is gravity.
What?
Gravity.
Gravity. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah. And that.
In other words, there's a limit to how much superposition you can have.
Yeah.
Okay. It gets too heavy. There are too many possibilities.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then that there may be other suggestions, but we need to think outside the box because in the past 100 years they cannot come up with a very good explanation. So we need to think outside the box. And I will come up one thing that maybe you have not thought of either. And I like you to keep open mind because that otherwise you will think that it's impossible, it's ridiculous. So just keep an open mind.
Okay.
Okay. Why observer collapse the waves? The reason why this mystery could not be resolved in the past 100 years was due to the well-established knowledge that life is required in order to sense. Of course, people think that way because that if a person dies, then the person cannot sense anything, right? So normally people will think that you need to have life in order to sense. And that's the box that keeps people not thinking outside. And we refuse to acknowledge the only possible explanation to the waveform collapse is microparticles. No, when it's been measured, like it's been measured, it knows. They sort of like freeze or something, so waveform disappear. So it's a very easy explanation, but people will not believe it, will not think about it because it's not a life form. But let's keep an open mind, see how that may be happening. Okay, the microparticles we measure now because observing impose a certain quantum impact on the particle. If we want to measure something, you need to take something out of it in order to observe, in order to measure. And that will have some impact on the particle. So with that impact, then the waveform disappears. Which means that microparticles have the ability to know, even though that we never thought it that way, but you can think of this way. And with that, continue with the following that explanations, and then you may feel better about it. Okay, so with these microparticles, the ability to know, that means they have a certain unique consciousness, a very unique consciousness, not the regular consciousness we talk about, but it's very unique consciousness. So this unique consciousness, also, since it can exist in microparticles, it can also exist in molecules in our body. Because, like for example, protein, it makes some molecules. And molecules is made of atoms. And since atom has that the unique consciousness, so the molecules would like accumulate that. So the molecules can also have this unique consciousnness. It's not like a 1 + 1 = 2. Like you have 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen to form the water molecule. It's not like will be 2 hydrogen plus 1 oxygen, the consciousness. It will be different, but it will still be there, because if the microparticles of atom has that ability, then the accumulation of the particles should also have it. And because the molecules has it, and then DNA, cells, organs, our brain, and in our body, our whole body all made of molecules. So if the atoms has that unique consciousness, molecules has it, and our body, organs will also have this unique consciousness. And even outside of our body, everything in the world, they are all made of microparticles. Like the most basic is atoms. So everything that basically made of atoms. So therefore, everything in the world can have a certain unique consciousness. And this unique consciousness is omnipresent in the whole universe. So it's called pan-consciousness. Let's talk about the difference between mental consciousness and pan-consciousness. Our brain also has pan-consciousness because, as I explained earlier, everything made of microparticles would have pan-consciousness. In addition to pan-consciousness, we all know that our brain has mental consciousness. Everybody knows it. We have mental consciousness. And our brain is the main control center of our nervous system. Our nervous system connects to the cells of our body. The connection of our brain with our body allows our brain to manifest pan-consciousness of our whole body that contains about 30 to 40 trillions of cells through mental consciousness. Therefore, the mental consciousness of our brain can establish communication with the outside world through pan-consciousness. Okay, the communication by pan-consciousness is called pan-consciousness communication, PCC. We normally are not aware of PCC. Nobody knows about PCC basically. And it's just like we are not aware of the presence of gravity. Or like we are not aware of that the Earth is rotating. We are not aware of that. And another reason we are not aware of it is the power of our mental activities often overshadows our pain consciousness because we think all the time. We think about like our job or our family or our health, a lot of things that we think about. So we'll not be able to observe the PCC. PCC is omnipresent in the universe. It's everywhere, even in this room. The whole universe, whether human or animals or plants or minerals, all can communicate through pain consciousness. Even though that with mental consciousness we are aware of it, but some not with mental consciousness we are not aware of it, but it's there. PCC is the origin of gravity, which has distance in the equation. We know that the gravity is the gravity constant multiplied by the m1, m2 divided by the distance square, right? So we know there's a gravity, but we don't know the origin of gravity. You know that the gravity is everywhere and PCC is everywhere. PCC is the origin of gravity. And it has distance in the equation. And by the way, Einstein's gravity theory does not perfectly explain gravity at the microscopic level. But with this PCC, it can explain it because it exists everywhere. And also that PCC can explain why that light will bend around that the globe. So because the PCC, we already know that it has that ability even for light, which has zero weight at the station place. Okay. The PCC through mental consciousness, whether human or non-human, can be far-reaching. Our mental consciousness does not have distance in the equation, so different from that gravity has distance in the equation, but that mental consciousness does not have distance in the equation.
May I ask a question? You say light has no weight?
Yeah.
But is light made of photons?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And photons have no weight?
No stationary weight.
No what?
When it's not moving, it's stationary.
Okay.
No weight. Yeah.
I have read that there are some people that think there's no such thing as particles.
No such thing what?
No such thing as particles. Everything is energy. And particles are simply coagulated energy.
That's basically similar to what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So, pain consciousness and communication can be tentatively classified into the following 6 categories. And I say tentatively because I don't think we need to spend more time on this. And so this 6th category is non-specific universal PCC.
I know about entanglement. I'm very intrigued by that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which is an innate PCC, and this entanglement is present between everything in the universe. The best example is gravity. And the second one is a specific universal PCC. It's a universal PCC that involves a certain specific entanglement. For example, astrology or feng shui, that's some specific entanglement. Not like gravity is more general. Okay. Then this is non-specific mental PCC. It's present in mental PCC that involves a certain non-specific entanglement. For example, arts or music is just that no specific, it's not specific. And then there's specific mental PCC which is present in the PCC that involves a certain specific entanglement. For example, if you do prayers, and so you have an object to pray to, or somebody curses, or like cockcrow, and like animal herds and flocks. That cock crow is very interesting. Like in the morning when the cock started to crow, you will hear that from one and then the other one by one, and always started from the same one every time, because there's a PCC involved telling who is the boss.
Mm.
Okay, and like animal or herds of flocks, that when you see that a group will suddenly move, that's the leader PCC telling everybody to move. Okay, and non-specific non-mental life form PCC, which are present in non-mental form, that involves a certain non-specific entanglement. For example, in the forest, like or like in intestinal flora, like in the forest, you know that they grow, but you don't know that actually there's communication PCC between them. And like intestinal flora, that they in the intestinal they also communicate. And then there's a specific non-mental life form PCC, which is, for example, like pollen or honey. Like pollen will attract that butterfly, honey will attract that bees. All that is specific. That's basically the classification I want to present. But as I said, this is not important, just for classification only. Now, we can go back to our original purpose, which is to explain why that water can have different crystals. Water molecules contains one oxygen and two hydrogens, and it's polar, and it would form crystals at sub-zero temperature. We all know that. And why that you will see different kind of crystal? Because we can establish PCC with water molecules through non-specific mental PCC, which is like art or music, and that's why that you play music to the water, it will get some effect, or like a picture will have effect. Or you can go use a specific mental PCC, like prayers or curses, to affect the water. Water crystal formation reflects the quality of PCC energy that imposed on them. When we apply positive PCC to water through prayers or visualization, then that will influence the water molecule to move harmoniously. When they move harmoniously, then the crystal will be harmonious. And then conversely, when the PCC energy is negative, inharmonious crystal, because it moves too much, so you cannot get harmonious crystals. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
I hear art and like painting or something like that, which is material. It has pressure to it, okay?
Yeah.
And music, by sound, has pressure, right? But thought, can someone change the appearance of an ice crystal by thinking?
By what?
Simply by thinking.
Thinking. It's possible, but
I should think so, because what you've been saying about PCC.
yeah, that's right. Okay, now let's talk about other than water, so we can see the effect of PCC in the world. First one, the driving force behind evolution. People now, the scientists that in general, people agree that there is evolution, but maybe that some other people believe in creation. So, but as far as evolution, scientists would propose evolution, but as I explained earlier, that they do not explain why. But actually, the driving force behind that evolution is PCC. And I'm not going to get into that today. So if there's enough interest in that, I'm going to make this into a video, put on that YouTube. And so if people are interested, they can comment that they want to talk about that evolution, then I will talk about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to touch it. Okay, like I mentioned about astrology or feng shui is also that besides water, that it exists in the world. And animals can predict earthquake. even that the most sensitive instrument cannot predict earthquake, but animals already know. So that's also PCC. And dog returns home from afar. The dog from maybe hundreds of miles away can go back home. Why? PCC. And ants broadcast foods and go back to the nest. You see the ants that are going around. Some people say that they have phenomenon, so they will smell the phenomenon to go back. But no, I don't think that's the case. Phenomenon is required only when a group of ants is doing some activity together. Then they use that to get everybody going. But as far as a single one, you see that it moves everywhere. It's impossible to use phenomenon to go back to a cave or nest. And how they go back? PCC. And you see that the ants on food, and then after a while, more ants come. So the ant does not go back to the nest and tell other people to come to food. They just use PCC to tell people to come, to tell other ants to come. And like a bee swarm attack, immediately the whole swarm of the bees will come. It's PCC. And elephants mourn the death of their benefactor. This I heard a story like in Africa. There's a person who saved the lives of a group of elephants, and when he died, those elephants gathered together and to his house and mourned for him. That's PCC.
And what about a dream that seems predictive?
Predictive.
Yes.
That will be a different story. That will be a different story.
Different story.
The carp swim upstream to spawn. So how do they know to go back there? PCC. And migratory bats and birds, that's also PCC to tell them to go back. And knowledge transfer between isolated islands. I heard a story that different islands, and in the island there's a group of monkeys, and when this group of monkeys doing something very specific, very special, only this island monkey would do. And even though that other islands so far away, but they will know how to do it. It's PCC. And dowsing for water. People in the past, when they want to find water, they use dowsing. That's PCC. Healing crystal, like quartz or something that has a healing effect. That's because that the crystal can concentrate energy and cause a PCC effect. Placebo effects. People know that when you try for medicine, you can use placebo and still get some effects. And the reason is that the person, the mental effect affect the body to recover. That's also PCC. Self-healing, like for example, cancer. Some people, cancer can be healed by PCC. You can help the body to recover. And the best way to do that is you do that Ho'onopono. Have you heard of Ho'opono? Ho'onopono.
No.
Okay. Anyway, that's basically you say that I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. All these are good words, and will help your body to recover, and that is because of the PCC. And DNA communication in our body, DNA, they talk to each other. That's PCC. And actually in our body that they are talking, our body, they talking all the time, but we don't know it. But they are talking so that they can function very properly. And the spiritual connection between plants and the grower. There's a experiment doing on the plants. They measure the plant when the grower is coming back home. The plant knows immediately, and even though that the grower is far away, just by thinking about coming back, the plant knows. They can measure that. And spiritual connection between pets and the owner. Okay, so there's for example, one of my patients that she complains about that. Her calf, she has pain in her calf, and she said that because her dog licks the calf, it causes the pain. I told her, I told him, no, that's not possible. It's just because your dog knows something wrong, and he was trying to help you, trying to warn you. Okay, so that's PCC, and the spiritual connection between humans, like maybe sometimes between the twins or between the mother and son or mother daughter. I heard one person say that the day that her mother died, she got splitting headache. She didn't know why, and then later on she found out that's the reason. Okay, and spiritual connection with God through prayer is that you have a mental PCC with God. That's how you can communicate it. And therapeutic mindful stretching, I have developed the therapeutic mindful stretching. You can see it on my website, tongjinacupuncture.com. You can find it at some video showing that therapeutic mindful stretching can help heal your body. And in the beginning, I thought it's because I can stretch beyond that stretching threshold. Do you know stretching threshold? Okay, you can put your hand like this, make a circle like this. Yeah. Okay, so you can try to bend your wrist inward as much as possible. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you will not be able to move further because that's the stretching threshold. Okay. But you can use your mind to move it further. You can breathe in and breathe out and take it to move further.
Mm-hmm.
Breathe in and breathe out, take it to move further. So with that, you can move over the stretching threshold. But later on I found out it's not because I can pass through the stretching threshold. It's because I can do PCC with my body. Okay. And for future application, like in medicine or communication or transportation, you believe in UFO?
I neither here nor there.
Yeah. But anyway, there's UFO. For people who have seen UFO, they always, of course, will believe it. But other people may believe or may not believe. But the government is trying to release more information, so we'll find out more. But I believe that's UFO. And they have more advanced transportation or communication skill. And I believe it's because they can harmonize the PCC energy that we cannot do yet. Many countries trying to do something similar to what they think that the UFO can do, but not successful yet. But I believe with the PCC and with the advent of AI, I think maybe we'll be able to get some improvement in the medical field or communication and transportation and many other things. And this is just some example that I came up with. And there are many others examples that I think everybody can come up because everybody has different specialized field, and in their field they can come up with something that can be explained by PCC.
So in your own field of acupuncture, how is acupuncture related to PCC?
Because you insert needle into the area, and that area will communicate in your body.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's good enough for today.
Yeah.